Hi everyone, welcome back in a random video of PD Pink Dolphin. Yep, that is me. It's been long. Today we're back with another actual tons of informative video for you. Also please don't be afraid about my hair. It's blondish white right now while it used to be brown with blue. I guess I'm an actual Suicide Shepherd dog now, color wise. My hair was not planned to be like this. My hair was planned to be like it always is, but just shorter. And I've been in an amazing species euphoria ever since then. A big thank you to my patron supporters: Kyle Copier, Bear X, Auxie Smoothie, Mars Coyote, Abibi Trix, House of Chimeras, Luca, Kazi, Kira, and Alan. Patron supporters get patron-only blogs and videos, early access, sneak peeks, bloopers, community workflows, and so much more. Today's video will give you answers on questions like is Therian free about identifying as or having experiences of an earthen animal, as well as Theriomythics, Plantkin, what are those? This video is also a bit of a recap meant on the previous really long, outdated and general unstructured videos on Theriomythics, which I will be making, but for the time being you can find those in the description if you want to learn more about Theriomythics. I also have a very interesting video linked in the description down below about 25 plus very interesting terms you have never heard of before, including Plantkin. Okay, so let's dive into it a la dolphin style, but first off you need to know what Therian actually is. As you all know right now, and otherwise please look in the description for a video on what Therian really is. The Therian community started in 1993 on all.horror.werewolves. This was originally a werewolf talk, discussion kind of forum website thingy, but people came there talking about actually feeling like they were werewolves, wolves, bears and anything else on a spiritual, mental, psychological or other kind of level. With this community came its own terms, like were in 1993, which later on became Therian by 2005. And actually, Therian was short for Therianthrope. Now, those terms that came with the Therian community were actually highly influenced by the fact everything revolved about animals, because Therianthrope, for example, was made out of two Greek words. The first one being Therio or Therion, which stood for beast or wild animal. The second was Anthropos, which stood for human or person. In short, Therianthrope actually translated to animal people. So we have the animal people community, and on our side we actually have the Otherkin, because Therian and Otherkin did not start at the same place and at the same time. They kind of started off on their own and later on collided. The word Otherkin specifically got created in 1990, but the Otherkin community actually started way before that. In 1960 there were Elfenkind or Elfen people. There was also a mailing list of elves in 1990, which eventually led to the word Otherkin being created. As opposed to Therians being animal people, Otherkin was much broader. Overall, Otherkin mainly focused on mythical aspects of the identity, spirituality and anything else. Elves, dragons, fae, there were also animals though. What we do see is that on all.horror.werewolves there was a debate about whether Therians are all earthen animals or if non-earthen animals could also be Therians, or maybe they needed their own word. This is where the word were mythic got mentioned in 1996. Now, short after this was actually kind of forgotten. It's not that the debate about earthen versus non-earthen animals wasn't there. It was there, but it was very minor compared to now. Around 2010, the debate again arose: are Therians all earthen or are non-earthen animals also Therians? In 2010, on Therian Wilderness, one of the biggest active Therian forums of that time, the word Theriomythos got created. This was a new term that indicated any Therian that was a non-earthen animal, like a dragon or a wyvern or a griffin for example. And then eventually led to the term Therian being defined as an earthen animal between 2010 and 2013. In 2013 the term Theriomythos got redefined as Theriomythics by Aquila. This actually led to the forum Betwixt and Between being created by Aaron in 2013. This was a forum really specifically created for Theriomythics, people identified as non-earthen animals. As I've been told, this was a reaction on a whole new debate about earthen versus non-earthen animals and all non-earthen animals being defined as Otherkin or Theriomythic. Okay, so a little recap until now. We know that Therians started as animal, without any definition related to species or origin like earthen or non-earthen. However, there was a little discussion about non-earthen animals. We know that Holocene started as just anything that isn't really human, without any more definition around. And we know that around 2010, 2013, there really came a really big debate about earthen versus non-earthen animals and whether or not they are Therian or Holocene, with the creation of Theriomythic as a term as a result. This whole earthen versus non-earthen debate is still happening today. It really depends per person. There's a 50-50 difference in community. There are a lot of people who hold true to what they think is the history, where animal was just animal and animal was very loosely defined in the instincts and the experiences and behaviorisms, rather than being earthen or non-earthen or their DNA. And we have people who focus more on like, I think this is important for the identity of the experiences, and I think it's important whether it's earthen or non-earthen because that influences how we see and know things, because we can't truly know what the dragon is because we've never seen a dragon, for example. There are tons of different explanations to each side, and those two are definitely not the only ones. They're just two very clear examples. Personally, I see Therians as identifying as or having experiences of an animal in the behaviors, the instincts, the feelings, the experiences, not in earthen or non-earthen or its DNA. In my opinion, that doesn't really matter or doesn't have any actual influence on the experience itself. However, as I am a YouTuber and I feel like I have to represent the actual community and not just myself, any of my recent videos will have both definitions in it, the earthen versus non-earthen and the animal versus non-animal definition. Last but not least, I wanna ask a little bit about Plantkin and rare plants, which may be interesting to you and actually is related to this topic. Therianthrope is an animal person, and Therianthropy is all about animal people and identifying as an animal, having experiences of an animal. But then you might be surprised that actually there were plants in our community at the very start. On Altered Throated Barrels in 1995, the term rare plant was actually created, which was meant for someone who identifies as or has experiences of a plant, a tree, a rose, anything really. There weren't a whole lot of rare plants, but there were a few, and I discussed their experiences very rarely. And actually didn't stay there. Plantkin was actually created as a term on a live journal by Doc in 2004, and in 2006 the term woodkin got created again on another live journal. Even after that, more and more plantkin arose around the communities, in Therian communities and in Holocene communities. In 2013, House of Chimeras, a very well-known Therian for their archives and other Therian projects, created the term phytanthrope. A phytanthrope experiences phytanthropy. A phytanthropy is identifying as a plant or having experiences as a plant or anything similar. Now, whether or not plants really belong in the Therian community or in the Holocene community is another such topic like earthen versus non-earthen. They're not really animals, but they are from Earth. So, because they are from Earth, they are Therian. But they're not an animal, so they're Holocene. Either way, the community is very split on this, and it kind of depends per person, as well as the person itself deciding whether they feel they belong within the Therian community or in the Holocene community. Personally, in my opinion and in my books, Plantkin are more Holocene than Therian, but it's simply because I mostly identify as Therian as animals, not as earthen versus non-earthen. So for me, plants don't have the same experiences as animals. They don't have the same instincts and the same kind of behaviorisms and thought patterns or anything like. But it really depends per person and it's up to you all. I would say let me know in the comments what do you think. Do you think it's rather earthen versus non-earthen, or you rather think it's animal versus non-animal? But this video is not meant to give you a plain answer. This video is meant to generally educate you on the origin of animal versus non-animal definitions and what definition you might now prefer to use. WOOF PD.
I don't need a man to make me happy. I get on being free. I don't need a man to make me feel good. I get on doing nothing. I don't need a ring around my finger to make me feel complete. So make me break it down and get off and you wing around. Oh!